Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and today I am back with a pretty interesting review here. This is for something called the Hyperbase FC, and this landed in my inbox by a Chinese company that wanted me to check it out. And normally I do ignore these type of things. We've all seen these kind of Chinese retro consoles before, but this one had enough to pique my interest a little bit. The first thing to grab my attention was obviously the 53,000 games that are included on it. Maybe I should say that a little bit different. Let me do that in like a 1990s extreme voice. It comes with 50,000 games. Pretty crazy, right? Also, too, notice that they're advertising it as a dual system. So you can play games and I guess it will control your television or watch TV. It has over 70 emulators, and I guess you can add your own games, you can download some. It has HDMI out, it has a couple USB ports, it also has a slot for a micro SD card, and they're advertising it as a classic retro look. But if you look closely there, you'll notice that there's something odd, and that is that there is this cartridge or this big old brick that is being inserted on the top of it. And I was like, what the heck is that? Let's go ahead and unbox it. And on the top there, you see that it comes with two PlayStation 2 type clone controllers, essentially. These are not actual Sony controllers. They're actually very light compared to the originals. But you got two of them. And then pulling out the unit itself, like I said, it's very much designed to look like a classic Nintendo Famicom. And it's very light. There's not much inside of this. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna open it up and take a look here in a second. Inside this box, you've got a power brick. You also have a TV remote, which is, again, curious. You've also got an HDMI cable. And then here is that cartridge hard drive thing. But I noticed that they threw in a bunch of stickers, which is kind of surprising, I guess. I didn't expect to find these in there. You'll notice that some of them are Nintendo characters like Mario. Now, I don't think for a second that any of this is officially licensed, but you know, I'm an optimist, so I was feeling a little feisty one day and I emailed them and I basically asked them, I'm like, you know, I'm reviewing this. You've got a lot of games on here. Are these officially licensed? Just curious, you know? Have I heard back? No. And then here is that cartridge, or really what it is, it's a laptop hard drive. So it's a physical hard drive that they're just including in here with a plastic, I guess, case over it, which is really wild. And so I was curious what this really was, so I opened it up, and as you can see here, it's basically, yeah, it's just a laptop hard drive. It's a 500 gigabyte size, so it's a pretty beefy hard drive, but I'm not surprised because if it has 53,000 games on there, and a lot of them are CD based, you would need all the space. And so essentially, yeah, it just plugs in on the top, which I get it. They're trying to make it kind of retro, almost like a cartridge, but it is really weird. Now let's go ahead and open up the device itself. I was kind of curious to see how this thing actually was put together and what was on the inside of it. Now they claim that this has an S905X chip in there, which is a quad-core CPU up to 1.5 gigahertz. But after doing some research on that specific chip, it looks like it's about 6 or 7 years old. So I'm kind of curious to see if it's going to be impressive enough to actually run some of those 3D games. Also, there's really no reason why they couldn't have just included that hard drive on the inside of this thing. I know it's very gimmicky to make it so that you actually have to plug it in on the top, but really, it's completely unnecessary. There's plenty of room on the inside of this device. They could have done that instead. Oh yeah, and I should probably tell you how much this thing costs. So it is currently on sale on Amazon for $120. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems like it's on the expensive side for a lot of these Chinese retro consoles, correct? All right, enough talking. Let's go ahead and plug this thing in and take a look. And I have to say that my initial impressions of the interface is that I really like the menu. It looks really, really nice, actually. And as you see here, there are just a ton of games, but it's very easy to navigate. It's easy to find some stuff in here. It's almost overwhelming, to be honest. Also, I like how there is cover art and also descriptions in English for probably 99% of the games that are included. And there's some really weird stuff in here too, like Capcom Play System 1, 2, and 3. Never quite heard that before. I assume it's referencing maybe arcade boards or something. And then check this out, they included the Pokemon Mini for some reason. This is a very weird Japanese-only mini console that Kelsey and I covered several years ago. There weren't a lot of games for it. So it's almost like that they're throwing everything at this. I mean, basically any and all systems, they're just here. Oh yeah, if you are a parent and you are thinking about getting this for your kids, just be aware that there are some adult games pre-installed on this device. They're kind of sprinkled throughout the different systems, so just be aware. Don't be surprised if little Johnny is spending a little bit extra time in his room with the door closed. Now you'll know why. Here's a look at the settings, and as you see here as I'm running through this, there are a ton of different options that you can mess with in here. I was kind of surprised to see that there's actually FTP access, although I think you have to reach out to the company to get the admin password for it. That seems a little odd to me. There's also several networking options, which honestly I didn't feel comfortable testing. I just don't want to have something on my network that I'm not 100% sure what it does, but it's there. So let's go ahead and jump into some games. Now, the first thing that I'm looking for here is obviously, does it look good? But more importantly, is there, controller latency that I'm noticing? Now, unfortunately, I don't have any latency measuring tools. I really have to just kind of go by feel. And the best way for me to really tell is if I jump into a game like Dodonpachi, which is a bullet hell style shooter from Cave. I played a lot, and I have to be honest here, actually, it felt pretty good. As you see here, I'm able to shoot and dodge fairly well. However, that was not the case when I jumped into Gunbird 2 and also Strikers 1945. The controls here felt very floaty, almost like there was a slight delay from when I would move and when it would actually occur on the screen. And so that's very disappointing, although probably not completely unexpected. And, to be honest, it's like, okay, you're going to be buying this Chinese retro clone system. I mean, you're probably not expecting the best. However, at $120, you would hope it would be decent. And that's where I start running into some serious problems. First of all, let me say, Nintendo 64 emulation on this is crap. Here you see a game called Beetle Adventure Racing, and first up, I noticed that the sky was all messed up. And as I played it, there was definitely some audio problems. But that's playable. Okay, I'll give him that. But then check out Extreme G. Look at this. I pop into the game and I don't know what is going on here. This is completely broken. So I try another game. I jump into Gauntlet Legends. And as you see here, it is running super slow. Completely unplayable. And again, I'm just playing this straight out of the box. I haven't messed with any settings. I feel like you shouldn't have to. Maybe there is a setting that you can tweak to make this better. I have no idea. So that doesn't bode well. Let's go ahead and jump into Dreamcast. And yeah, it's not much better here. Maybe it's even worse. You see Soul Calibur here running super slow and just really bizarre video problems. Honestly, it's not much better in Sonic Advance 2 either. I thought, okay, well maybe Dreamcast support isn't really great. Obviously it's going to need a fairly beefy processor. So I decided to jump into the arcade version of Wave Runner GP. Again, I just picked this game at random and same thing. It's running really slow. I don't know if this is an audio issue. I don't know if it's video. I don't know if it's just underpowered. I have no idea. Let's jump into some PSP games. Initially, I thought Ridge Racer was running pretty well, but as I played it, I started to notice that yes, it is indeed running slow and the audio is messed up. The other thing I was thinking is that maybe they're trying to upscale the graphics, but as you see here in Daxter, I'm pretty sure this is the native resolution of the game because I just played this on a PC a little while ago and that was actually upscaling and looking much better. You see them side by side here. So on the left is this Hyperbase FC and on the right is it's a Minis Forum computer that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. And so again, I just think that maybe it's either underpowered or not optimized. And again, I wouldn't care if this was a $40 device, but they're selling it at what I consider to be a premium at $120, and they're advertising that these games, these consoles at least, should run on it. And when I say a premium, this is what I'm referring to. I very quickly looked on Amazon for competing consoles, and you can see these are typically about half as much. Now, I haven't tested these and I have no idea about the quality, but you get my point. I did check out some PlayStation 1 games, and for the most part, those seem to work fine, which I think is to be expected, although it's weird that PlayStation 1 games are okay on it, but not Nintendo 64 games. I don't get that. It's going to be no surprise that for the most part, it seems like 8-bit and 16-bit games, like for the Genesis and the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, those seem to work fine. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of controller latency, but for the most part, actually, I didn't really feel it, so it wasn't really affecting the gameplay. I saw that they have Game Boy Advance on here, and so I wanted to try one of the more tougher games to get running on it, and that is Moto Racer Advance. This is a game that has given emulators a problem in the past, but as you see here, actually it's running at full speed, so it works great. So, you know, it's not all bad, and I did not test everything by all means. I mean, I didn't really jump into the computers very much because I assumed that they would probably need a keyboard attached as well. But for me, I was like, okay, I really want to see how this is going to do on that, you know, N64 and newer, and that's where it really falls down. I mentioned that it has a TV mode where it boots into an Android interface that, again, looks pretty decent actually. I was very surprised. However, I noticed under the settings and security that it hasn't had a security patch in almost 6 years. Yikes. So I'm not going to put this on my network or put in any of my Netflix credentials or any of that stuff, but just know it's there. I assume it will work. Buyer beware, man. So, what do I think of this thing? Well, let's put it this way. At $120, no. Do not buy this. But even at half that, a lot of this stuff doesn't work, you know? It doesn't run at full speed. It needs more power. I mean, I can't recommend this unless you really just want to play those 8-bit and 16-bit games, maybe some of the arcade games. Maybe you need an Android device to control your television, but honestly, a Fire Stick from Amazon or a Roku device would be probably way better for that. So yeah, that's my review of the Hyperbase FC. It's on Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description below, and like I said, buyer beware, man. And as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.